Hello, viewers and listeners. I'm Lori Jackson, and thank you for joining my podcast, In This World, a podcast for life's journey through tough times. In this next series, we're going to be talking about changes and transitions. I think sometimes we feel a bit nervous about the idea of change and what that means and how it's going to affect us. We'll talk about change that comes from things that are within our control and that we make happen, the changes that, we intend and hope for, and the transitions into that next phase or that next opportunity, that next relationship, that next job. But we'll also talk about changes that are unexpected, changes that come from things that are outside of our control, and how to cope and deal with those and come out on the other side stronger, wiser, and in a position where you could share with others your own experiences and help them through similar changes. You may notice it's been a few weeks since I last posted. I took a few weeks off for the holidays. We talked about the importance of taking care of ourselves. And for me, taking a few weeks off was just what I needed. Time to reflect, time to rest, and time to prepare for our next series. So let's get started. In this series, we're going to cover quite a number of different kinds of changes and transitions that you may experience. And so I'll list some of those, and in each episode, we'll cover one or two of these topics. So I've listed these out, changes in relationships. So we'll talk about physical changes, changes in our health, changes in our physical being. We'll talk about job changes, career shifts, getting promotions, working with a challenging boss. We'll talk about work ethic and performance, self-evaluations, getting feedback from others. We'll talk about financial transitions, how to manage with less, and how to manage more. We'll talk about the idea of goal setting, and I think this is appropriate. It's the beginning of a new year, and what are those things that you'd like to accomplish, and how do you set about making those changes or transitioning into those new objectives that will help you achieve your goals. We'll talk about growth and maturity. How do you become a better person? How do you change yourself into someone that you want to be? How do you reflect on the things and identify those things about yourself that you want to change? And we'll talk about coping with changes beyond your control. So a lot of the things that I talked about, some of those could be very self-driven, changes that you want, improvements you want to make, circumstance changes, things that are within your control. But sometimes changes and transitions happen in any of those areas, financial, career, relationships, outside of your control, not what you were expecting. And so we'll talk about how to manage through those kinds of changes and how to successfully transition through that change. And then there's always something good that can come out of any situation that's bringing about change in any time that you find yourself in transition. It can be a very uncomfortable time. And yet, when you keep your eye on the prize, so to speak, and know that through that change, you're going to come out on the other side stronger, wiser, and with some great stories and experiences to share, then you can see that there's purpose in it. And when we acknowledge the purpose in our lives of even things that are outside of our control, that there is a good purpose that will come out of those circumstances, it can make it much easier to manage and work through those changes and transitions. And I'm going to have a session on prayer and fasting through these times. I believe that's a great tool to utilize, especially at times when we're facing change, very important to incorporate prayer and fasting into your activities. So that's my list. If you have a topic that you would like to cover, please reach out and let me know. I'm more than happy to discuss topics that the audience is requesting. So this first session is on goal setting in the series of managing through change and transitions. And I want to start really with self-evaluation. I think it's important for us to get to know who we are, like to honestly look at ourselves and see where we are at any point in time in our lives. And there have been a couple tools that I have used over the years to help me do that kind of self-evaluation. And one of those is called the VIA Character Survey. This survey is available for free on their website, viacharacter.org. And they established 24 character traits. And by answering a number of survey questions, what they do is they ultimately show you on numbering from 1 to 24 your strongest character traits. And so you have some strength in all of these areas, but just putting them in a ranking order for you. And they say that knowing your best character traits, you can improve and thrive in your life. That research shows that using your best character traits can help you improve your relationships, enhance health and overall well-being, and can help you buffer against, manage, and even overcome problems. So when you understand where your strengths lie, you can utilize those to help you in life. On their website, I noted that it said that workers who use 4 or more of their signature strengths at work have more positive work experiences and report that their work is a calling in their life. So I think that's fantastic and a compelling reason to take a look, take the survey. The character strengths are different than other personal strengths, such as like your own skills or talents that you've developed, interests that you have, because these are really about the real you, who you are at your like very core. And everyone, as I say, possesses all 24 character strengths, just at differing degrees. So taking the survey then gives you your own personal profile that lets you discover your strengths. And it's important, I just want to say, answer honestly. You can take the survey multiple times, say over a span of years. And so I have done just that. In fact, the first time I took the VIA survey was back in 2012, because I took a look in preparation for this podcast. And then I took it again today. But I found it was really interesting that my top 6 strengths, they may have shifted in terms of the numbering, but were fairly consistent, 5 out of the 6. And then the ones at the bottom were consistently the ones at the bottom as well. So some things are just innately who I am, and I haven't wanted to change that. It's interesting because as we go through this podcast, I thought it was kind of funny that I love when people can bring humor in, and it makes it easier to listen and people can laugh along. And I thought, wow, that is an area that is just, I have never like seen myself as someone who makes people laugh or wanted to make people laugh. And humor, last on my list. I think I have a good sense of humor. I laugh a lot, but I never really thought about myself as making people laugh. And recently, thinking about this podcast, I thought, maybe that's something I need to develop. So we'll see. And you can go on this journey with me and just see if I improve in that area. So I think this is a great way to really do that self-evaluation. And then another great tool that I have used myself is called the Wheel of Life assessment. So the way the Wheel of Life assessment works, you create a circle, like on a piece of paper, create a circle, draw 4 lines going into creating 8 equal sections on the wheel. And then you're going to fill in each of those with one of these areas of focus in life. And those areas are finance, health, relationships or family and friends, your physical environment, fun and recreation, personal growth and learning, your career, and spirituality. So you're going to fill those 8 sections in with what I've just described. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, you're going to rate how satisfied you are in that area in your life today. From 1 being the lowest to 10 being the highest satisfaction. And then you'll fill in closest to the center is 1. And then if you're actually a 10, you would fill that entire section in. And if it's some degree between 1 and 10, you would fill it in on a prorated basis up to the edge of the circle. So you're basically filling in a wedge in each of those sections, and you can see the relative degree of satisfaction that you have in each of those areas of your life. And it's a great graphic representation. Now, what I did find, because when I've done this, I actually did that. Drew a circle on a piece of paper, old school, a pen and paper. But what I found is that there are some online resources. So wheeloflife.io is a website that even lets you create your own categories if you want to change them a little bit from what I just mentioned to you. Or wheeloflife.newme.com is another one. So you can go online and fill in the answers, and then it will create the graph for you and you can print it out. So between looking at yourself and doing that character strengths assessment, and then looking at your life and looking at your areas of satisfaction or areas of dissatisfaction, these are 2 great tools to help you look and determine what kind of goals you should be setting for yourself. And so with goal setting, there's a couple steps that I've taken when I work to achieve a goal. And so the first thing I would say is take a look at your strengths and use your strengths to help you in the goal setting process. So be encouraged by that and know that you have the capacity to achieve any goal that you set for yourself and utilize your strengths to get there. So first, I want to say commit to your goal or goals by putting them in writing. So take some time and just write down everything that you would like to achieve. You're looking at your life, wheel of life. You're looking at your character traits from 1 to 24. And you say, okay, I'd really like to increase my love of learning, or I would really like to change my physical environment, or, come up with your list of goals, write them all down. And then what you're going to do is prioritize those. You're going to identify for yourself the ones that are the most important to you. And then you're going to focus on 1 or 2 of those to start with. So it's super important not to try to achieve too much from a goal setting standpoint at once. And so we prioritize. A second thing to look at is your self-motivation. Because in order to achieve these goals, you do have to be self-motivated. You have to want it, and there has to be some purpose behind what you want. So the question around self-motivation is, what is that intrinsic value to you that's motivating yourself? Is it spirituality? Is it a love of learning? Is it curiosity? What are those intrinsic motivators that are driving you to want to make these changes or achieve these goals? Really answering the question, why does this matter? Why is it important to you? That is going to help you stay self-motivated. Then your next step is to draft a plan of action. So goals don't just achieve themselves overnight. You actually have to take some steps to get there to achieving the ultimate goal. And drafting that plan is important And if you're not sure all of the steps that you need to achieve your goal, maybe your goal is you want to start your own business and you don't have all the knowledge yet to even know what you need to do. Then the next thing to achieve that goal, one of your steps in your plan, is research. But the other thing is to not go it alone. And in any of your goals, it's great to have some support. And that would be in two forms. One is people that you can go to, or a person you can go to for advice, someone that you think is wise in this particular area, has had their own successes in this area, and you solicit them for advice and support, because they can also be, or you could choose someone else to be, an accountability person. This podcast is something that I had been focusing on as a goal. I had thought about it. I felt God prompting me to do it for over a year. And it wasn't until I actually spoke to someone about it and they asked me if I wanted to be held accountable to this goal. And I said I did. And really, that's what got me there, is having someone else to answer to keep me focused to achieve the goal. And here we are at the podcast. So it works. So don't go it alone. Bring some people in to support you, both from an accountability standpoint and as a resource to give you information that you don't have. And then assess where you are periodically. How are you doing? Are you making progress? Is your plan an effective plan? Do you need to make some changes in that plan in order to achieve your ultimate goal? And what obstacles have you faced along the way that you weren't anticipating, and how did you address those? And then write all of this down too. You need to put this all in writing because it's going to help you to ultimately achieve that goal and be honest, and also allow yourself some grace. So don't ever beat yourself up for not being where you want to be, for not, achieving in the time frame that you wanted to. Again, things happen in life and we have to give ourselves grace and stay the course, keep at it, and know that ultimately you will achieve the goals that you set forth for yourself. So I talked about the assessments, I talked about the resources, I talked about goal setting, and I just want to say some final words to don't get discouraged. It's important to know that success is not measured by just checking off a box and saying that I did it. That part of what matters is how you handle things when it doesn't go the way you planned. And this is so life, right? Oftentimes life does not go the way we planned. So we call this resilience, how you get back up and keep going, and how you adjust for those circumstances. And so give it a try, learn about yourself, understand about your character strengths, take the surveys, do your wheel of life, see where you are in terms of satisfaction, areas that you could improve. And I'm excited to see where this leads you. I'm going to check in later this year. We'll do some periodic check-ins to see how I'm doing with my goals, to see how you're doing on your goal setting. And I'm going to wrap up with with two things. One, I did utilize, this is part of a church event that I went to, but it talked about a Proverbs 31 woman. And a Proverbs 31 woman is someone who has certain character traits. These are the traits of that Proverbs 31 woman. And it is a woman who brings good to her family, not harm, who does productive work and is eager to do it, who is not lazy, but gets up and prepares and provides for her family each day. She's strong and physically able to do her work, taking care of herself and her health. She plans ahead so her family isn't lacking. She is generous and helps others in need. She has wisdom from God through her faith. She studies scripture faithfully, and she does not worry, but places her trust in the Lord. And so whether you're a homemaker, a married career woman, a mother, a widow, a single woman of any age, the message of this scripture is really for all women. I just would encourage you to look for some higher purpose in it as well. And so with that, I'm going to end with a poem that I wrote a couple of years ago, back in 2021. And I just want to thank you for joining in today. And I hope you enjoy the poem. And until the next time, God bless you. And thank you for joining my podcast. So this poem is entitled Purpose. To live, to love, to follow the golden rule, we are taught these canons as children each day in school. But can we be all that we can be? Is it enough to have faith in life and love with just our own abilities? Can we truly rise above? I tried to reach this goal, to be the pinnacle of success, yet the outer shell hid my inner fails, and it took a toll. My life was not fulfilling its best. Why am I not satisfied? Why do we need more? Because life is meant for something greater, and it's standing at the door. Knock, and it shall be opened to you. Seek, and ye shall find. Such a simple plan to follow, yet so complicated in our minds. A life that is void of purpose is centered on our own needs. Though we care sometimes about others, we are filled with our own desires and needs. But a life that is filled with purpose must be focused on above, to higher things that are only possible with God's amazing and unconditional love. So learn this truth, that there is more to life than living for your dreams. It is to live for God and His divine purpose that brings fulfillment supreme. Surrender self, surrender all, your past and your present, your heart, your mind, your soul. Put your trust in a loving and just God who works behind the scenes to give your life the meaning and purpose that is greater than any of your desires and dreams. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next week.